During previous administrations, repentant agitators from the Niger Delta voluntarily surrendered their weapons to the federal government in 2009. Arms and ammunition from almost 29,000 ex-militants were recovered. With the commencement of the Presidential Amnesty Program, PAP, over 400 ex-agitators have gone through a special Train, Employ and Mentor TEM training program, which will provide them with another privileged opportunity to create a future of economic prosperity. Joining us on the show this morning as we discuss the impact of the Amnesty Program under the leadership of the interim administrator, Colonel Milan Dixon Dikio, retired, and what the program has been up to in almost 2 years, is Alfred Kemapado, head of the Reintegration Presidential Amnesty Program. Good morning. Welcome to the morning show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
It's good to have you. Well, by way of introduction, let me say, will you give us an overview of what has been happening with the Presidential Amnesty Program in the last 2 years since an interim administrator assumed office?
Okay. What we did first was to interrogate what was done, how well it was done, and how we can push it further. So, in the course of that interrogation, of course, our main job is to build human capacity for the ex-agitators and ensure that they are reintegrated into the society. So, basically, what we asked was the kind of training that have been going on, how they have been able to fit into society. So, interrogating that led us to the present program we have, which is a Train, Employ and Mentor. Train, Employ and Mentor simply means this. The interim administrator, Colonel Dikio, will ask us a question like, how do you train people just to feed them again into the unemployment market? And that's not good because, if you look at the Niger Delta, both the NDDC and other agencies are also training. But the big question is, after the training, what now becomes of them? So he initiated and introduced this Train, Employ and Mentor scheme. What it means simply is the Amnesty Program is in partnership with businesses that are upcoming or businesses that are expanding. So they come in partnership with us to train our ex-agitators as documented and fit them into existing opportunities. I'll give you a practical example. For example, if we have to give you a training in the area of, let's say, welding and fabrication, first of all, you have to show to us that, let's say, you have a 4 to 5 years welding and fabrication job with maybe any company. So, first of all, you prove that to us, then you now have to say, okay, you need XYZ number of people to work on that project. So you have to train that number. We'll give you that number. We fund the training. You train to fit them into that program. And most importantly, you have to train them and certify with them with a certificate that is mobile enough so that even when they are not on your job, they can move to other jobs and that certificate will be acceptable.
A lot of thought goes into it, clearly. Now, a prominent Ijaw rights activist, Joseph Ever, recently applauded Colonel Dikio for his constant engagement of stakeholders and supporting heroes from the region. How well has such interventions helped in the peace and stability of the region?
Of course, without accusing anybody, there is also this, should I say, commercialization of violence. Okay, so anybody can say the way they want to approach the Niger Delta issue, but what Colonel Dikio has been able to do is to use the arts and mind approach, get down to the ex-agitators, meet them one-on-one, stakeholders from the region, engage them, and begin to talk how the environment can be more peaceful, have it safe for businesses to return and other businesses to grow, so that the Niger Delta will be the most peaceful place to live and do business. So that arts and mind approach has really been working. It's not just by the dispensing of arms and ammunition or the regular security agencies. It's been talk. And Colonel Dikio is not alone on this. We have many of the Niger Delta stakeholders, leaders, getting to talk to people. And I think you would have felt the result. As far as today is concerned, except people want to debate it for the fun of debate, the Niger Delta is the most peaceful part of this country as of today. It's clear to everybody.
Right, we're beginning to see like a paradigm shift in activities, of the amnesty, and we're seeing a lot of engagement in this region and the likes. Let's talk about value. What value has this brought to the people of the region?
Well, when you say value, we have to put it in context. Okay, the amnesty program is not a program that was created to stand alone. Okay, there is what we call the Niger Delta Recovery Plan. Okay, where at the time, I think Oga was even in government. Okay, at the time we talked about the environmental remediation problems in the Niger Delta, how to clean up, which led to IPREP and others. We talked about the infrastructural development of the Niger Delta, which is in the Niger Delta Recovery Plan. I'm talking about the legs, okay, which the NDDC and the Ministry of Niger Delta is supposed to champion. We also talked about the oil assets redistribution in the recovery plan, which led to the PIB, that is now a PIA, even if it's a PIA still in the brewery, So you also talked about the security component. Then the fifth leg.
No, but PIA signed into law already.
Yeah.
So it's not in the brewery. It's signed into law.
It's okay. So, no. And so you now talk about the amnesty program. So the amnesty program is one of the legs of these 5 legs, which is of the Niger Delta Recovery Plan. Okay, so the amnesty program technically was to build human capacity and to also say, hey boys, what you're agitating for, calm down, while these other legs kick in. So coming back to your question of value, okay, the question will be that how has the federal government over time been able to activate these other legs to complement the efforts of the amnesty program? Because the amnesty program is not responsible for the construction of roads. It's not responsible for the cleaning up of the Niger Delta environment. But the amnesty program is built to build human capacity to feed the skill and the skill that is needed to do all of this job. So when you talk about value, yes, we are building human capacity in this area, just as we have done in TEM. But to bring the full value, like you asked, it's for the federal government to activate these other components.
Well, you keep referring to the Train, Employ, and Mentor Scheme, TEM, right? Which is one of the star programs of the DQ administration. Can you tell us more about it and how significant it is in terms of using that scheme to promote the objective of wealth creation, which Colonel DQ keeps talking about?
Well, basically, it's straight and simple. Shortly, there are questions we must ask. One of the things Colonel DQ has been able to interrogate in the course of our jobs is the value education brings and what you educate people for. So basically, the Train, Employ, and Mentor Scheme is designed in such a way that at the end of the day, once you are trained, you are not just trained for training's sake. You are trained to fit in. I'll give you an example again. At the moment, there is food crisis all over the world, and we have very, very arable lands in Nigeria. So the question is, in our partnership with agricultural firms, so you fit them in to train so that they can begin to produce and not train people for the sake of training. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Right, so the media has been agog with the deployment of some ex-agitators for training in agriculture, maritime, oil and gas, and other vocational skills. What informed those particular areas of training?
Yeah, if you understand the Niger Delta very well, they are littoral states. So the ocean economy or the blue economy, as some may describe, comes readily to us. So there are key pillars, in order to have this as a whole. We talked about maritime security, food security, which I had mentioned, and maritime transportation. These are areas that we can really take advantage of. I'll give you an example. Research from Staff College in America, shows that illegal fishing in the Gulf of Guinea, by one of the countries, let us starting from sea, is about $7.5 billion. That's about 3.5 trillion Nigerian naira. So the question is, how have we been able to take advantage of these potentials to create jobs? So you see the target of the training. I'll give you another example. The price of palm oil in the market today, it's more than the price of crude oil. Go check your days. Now, bring it locally. Okomu oil in Edo State is quoted in the Nigerian Stock Exchange for about 162 billion naira. The facts are there. So the question now is, how do we expand on these potentials and the Niger Delta that is arable enough to grow all of these things so that we can contribute to the stability and prosperity of Nigeria? So these are the things we are not looking at that we're not looked at that we are looking at, and we're encouraging people to look at. It's not just this oil. Yes, oil is good, but there is much more that we can do with the Niger Delta.
We also did a very big farming community even before Olobere happened in 56, 57. So, what's the total number of those that have been deployed, and how long are this training going to last? What are the training centers like in the region? Just give me the whole gamut of it.
Recently, we are deploying about 850, but from December till now, it's about 1,250, and we'll do more. And we are deploying it within the term. You must train them, you must employ them, and mentor them. So even at this time, we are not just looking for contractors, we're looking for partners. People who have these opportunities and can train our people to fit in. At the end of the day, if we look at the Nigerian case very well, there is so much to do that can create a job for our people. It's just for us to look at this. And the Colonel is leading all of these things, and we are all following, and we're glad the region is happy to have him lead in this direction rather than the patronage of some mom and pop institutes that we're walking away from.
Okay, with the ongoing, let's go back to this same term scheme. With the ongoing term scheme, would it be safe to say that all untrained ex-agitators have now been successfully captured? And in addition to that, you have a tracking system for some of the persons who came onto the program. I recall there were some of them who were in Germany at the time that President Jonathan visited. At a point, we visited another set of graduates who went on the program to Namibia, in other parts of the world. Do you have a monitoring system?
Yeah, we have a monitoring system. One of the things we have also done recently, the Colonel has done, and that took place in all the Niger Delta states, is for us to recall all trained people whose certifications and other necessary qualifications may have expired. We subjected them to a psychometric test, and we are revalidating them to position them for the available job opportunities in projects coming up in the Niger Delta and beyond. So we have that database. And of course, we have many untrained people still in the database. And the figure I gave to you about 1,250 has not touched half of the data that is still untrained. So we have a track on untrained, trained, those in training, and those trained that needs some form of brush up so that they can be ready for the job market.
Well, the Niger Delta used to be known as a hotbed of violent activities, protests, and what have you. You mentioned earlier that it's now the safest part of Nigeria, but then there are fears that there might be a resurgence of this kind of unrest as we approach the 2023 general elections. Do you share those concerns?
No, not at all. Now, let me tell you something. The Niger Delta has a lot of leaders. Colonel Milan Dikio is also one of it. You see, 3 days ago, I drove from Calabar up to Edo State for an activity, and I was sleeping in the car because I was tired. That can hardly happen in some other parts of the country, as said today. You know what I'm talking about. Let's not politicize it. There are parts of this country that you can't drive for 1 hour sleeping. Niger Delta is so peaceful. Then the ex-agitators community, as you can see, despite all the promises that have not been met, they have been so quiet. And this is deliberately so because as a people, we have resolved to keep the environment most peaceful. Okay? As a people, we are walking away from it. And Colonel Dikio and other leaders of the region are encouraging this. So what we require from the government and those companies and industries is to further encourage this and deepen the prosperity of the environment by creating and trying to get these opportunities across for our people to take advantage and create wealth. Because at the end of the day, madam, it's about wealth creation. Okay? Whether you call the problem in the northeast, northwest, south, it's about how we can create wealth for our people. Let people be employed. Let people go to school. Let people have something to do. A lot of these problems will go. Forget about all these people who come up and say, we can go there and finish them. Let's buy ammunition. You don't need ammunition. What you need is jobs. Nobody can finish anybody. And by the way, if you can finish people, who are you finishing? You're finishing your people. So, you see, the Colonel Dikio's approach is about reinvesting in the human capacity of our people and providing opportunities for them to live well and live good. And everybody, do they throw stones in Dubai, according to him? They don't. You think they are saints? They are not saints. But you see, people must plan. Another thing is also introducing, we're also introducing a Niger Delta stabilization program. The reason is this. It's targeted at 12 to 18. But when I say introducing, it's a proposal, 12 to 18, because those who were 30 years, 10 years ago, are 40 years today. Okay, so we must have a plan of ensuring that, those who are between the age of 12 to 21 are tended to in such a way that they grow up with values that promotes prosperity and not violence. Okay, so we need to begin to why we block the pipeline to violence. While we are dealing with the current situation that we have, we must also block that pipeline that leads to it and feed it with what is more prosperous for the good of the region and the nation. So we are proposing all of these Niger Delta stabilization programs because at the end of the day, the only intent was to stabilize the Niger Delta and have it develop for the good of the Niger Delta and for the good of the country. So it's a broad approach to the whole issue. Okay, it requires planning, it requires time, and of course it requires more funding too.
Okay, so verbally you're asking for more funding. How much of support, has this amnesty program had from other agencies of government, the quest for peace and development and stability in the Niger Delta region? Is it been, well?
When you mean other agencies, you mean other agencies of government?
Yes. In terms of synergy and collaboration?
Yeah, synergy. That's part of what...
it's an agency of government that releases the funds to you.
Sorry?
It's an agency of government that releases funds, isn't it?
When you say agency of government, you mean the federal government?
Yes.
It's federal government. No other. We get our funds directly from the federal government.
Yeah, but there are people that it goes through. There are tables that it goes through. So we're talking about...
No. If I get your question very well, I think your question is very proper. But to situate it very well, you mean the collaboration between the office and other sister agencies like the Ministry of Niger Delta, the Ministry of Transport. Yeah. Colonel Dikio has been reaching out deliberately. In short, recently, It reached out even to the NDLEA because, you see, you can't exercise the activities of drug from crime and criminal-related activities. So that interagency relationship is being fostered, okay, beyond the one-on-one individual touch. And like you asked before, by God's grace, there won't be any form of brigandage from the Niger Delta in the coming elections. Instead, people will interrogate these aspirants, what is in it, in their manifestos, and sincerely so, for the Niger Delta.
Okay, two quick things. I mean, will you say that this amnesty program has been successful? Considering the fact that, yes, although you say the Niger Delta is very peaceful compared to other parts of the country, but you still have oil theft, oil bunkering, violence in the Niger Delta. If the program was so successful, we shouldn't still have, youths involved in some of those activities. And then the interim administrator had been talking about plans for the transformation of the amnesty program, a more sustainable program that will be called Niger Delta Stabilization Program. Now, what is that about? How far has anybody gone with regard to it?
Now, in terms of success for the amnesty program, like you asked, the amnesty program has been successful for the federal government. I say so because before amnesty was proclaimed, oil production came down to about 700 barrels per day. But after amnesty was proclaimed, we had more than 2,500, which is what the federal government had desired. So it was successful for the federal government. But the next question is, has it been successful for our people? We can't say no, but we can't say yes, maybe little. Little that it has been able to build a bit of human capacity in the Niger Delta. But to the extent of why the amnesty program was established, which is, it was established along the 5 legs I had mentioned here. The question would be that, as the needed development, like the 6 cities President Yar'Adua promised, has it come to the Niger Delta? No. Has the environment of the Niger Delta be kept clean? No. Has the infrastructures that were promised returned? No. But however, it's not too late. We can still have them working. So the success is yes for the federal government, but for our people, it's close to a no, because it's just a little success. Yeah. So basically, that's as you asked about oil theft and oil bunkering. I gave you an example. Most times we need to take forensic audit of what causes the problem. The question is, some can just come and say, okay, we can do this, and that in the Niger Delta to oil bunkering. Why do you have to do that when you can be sincere about the establishment of your refineries so that these fuels can be refined, create jobs? You can't be talking about oil theft, bunkering, bullfire, and all this in isolation when the federal government has also failed to create this. So these are the areas we need to begin to look at it. Okay, so let's not blame the people as if it's all their fault. However, this is not to say in any way that oil bunkering activities and the related activities are to be tolerated. We stand to condemn it any day, anytime, because at the end of the day, it kills our people. Go to Port Harcourt, there's soot everywhere. But you see, the way to go is not to increase more gunboats in our seas. It's to increase refineries. If you call them modular, artisanal, whatever you call it, and have these people, our people in the Niger Delta and other people involved in this. You see, don't forget that the Niger Delta Recovery Plan that I explained earlier had 5 legs. One of it was oil assets redistribution, which was supposed to be championed by the Ministry of Petroleum. So at that stage, we should have been talking about it. So at where we are and where we can be, considering where we can be, if these things are activated, we shouldn't even be talking about fuel scarcity in Nigeria. We should be talking about exporting to the neighboring countries. And of course, gas. So that's why I say, let's have it in context, okay? While you blame this, you also have to consider these other things that we can do. And by God's grace, I think we should do those things. And maybe those are the arguments we want to hear from the political debates that will be going on henceforth However, we are not a political office. We're a national security program.
Anyway, thank you very much, Alfred Kemapado, for joining us on the program this morning. We wish you all the best as the Presidential Amnesty Program continues to serve the people.
You wish my boss the best, Colonel DQ. We all serve under
well, when I say you, I wish you the best. Of course, I'm referring to the entire organization and its leadership. As that organization continues to serve the people and ensure peace and security and the welfare of the people of the Niger Delta. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.